1874, the podcast with Dan Bardell and Gregg Evans.
Hello and welcome to the 1874 podcast, your podcast, everything Aston Villa related. I'm your host, Dan Bardell, joined by the Athletics global Gregg Evans, and I can start calling him that again because he's filming from a global location. Those of you that are listening to this podcast this week are way better off than the people watching it on YouTube, because I do not know what is wrong with my face. Obviously missing the Sky makeup, but Gregg looks $1 million. Gregg, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, Dan. Feeling very fresh. Playing lots of golf, exercising a little bit more than I usually have been. So yeah, life's good.
I've seen I'm about to embark on an exercise regime as well, and an 8-week plan. Did not like the state of myself on television over the last few weeks. So I've decided to do something about it. So me and Gregg dressed quite similarly for the first time probably ever in our lives, because our fashion senses are very different, Gregg.
Yeah, it's about time that you started dressing properly.
You've dragged me down to your level. I've noticed your content doing the runs. What is it, 5Ks?
Yeah, I have. Do you know what? I haven't actually accurately measured the run that I'm doing, but
So
I know that yeah, it's a little bit harder over here. I'm going a bit slower, but no, it's around about 5K. So yeah, I'm just starting sort of slowly. Fitness levels have dropped off a little bit over the last couple of months, so
yeah, same.
I'm back on it now. But yeah, if anybody's interested in following my fitness journey, I'm doing a 30-day fitness challenge where I exercise and some sort of exercise every single day. You can follow me on Instagram. My Instagram is Gregg's Golf, GREGGS Golf.
Gregg's Golf, getting his main hobby in his tagline on social media. Talking of the number 5 as well, quite a pertinent number this week, Gregg, as Aston Villa travelled to Bramall Lane and won 5-0. Actually, could have been more had Villa not took their foot off the pedal a little bit in the second half. But Villa needed, I think, any kind of win this weekend. So to win in the fashion and the manner that they did, 5 different goal scorers, it was a really, really good performance. You could see how much it meant to Unai Emery as well. So I think that's not a turning point, because I don't think that the season was going downhill or anything like that. But I think what that's done is that's kind of stopped the noise a little bit. And I think the noise was actually coming from our own fan base rather than outside. I think the outside could say that we were still having a very good season. But you do feel that we might kick on and go on a little bit of a run again now, don't you?
Yeah, I think they needed that, more than anything. They needed to go to Sheffield United, win first and foremost, but to put a real statement performance like that and a statement result just shows that Villa are still in there. They still mean business. Really disappointing against Newcastle. I mean, it was inevitable they were going to lose a game at some point at home. So it's always about how they react. And, Emery really got into them and sort of drilled them, hard for this game against Sheffield United. And look, it was a really good performance. I don't think a team has scored 4 away goals in the Premier League in the first half for about 12 or 13 years.
2011, I think I saw, possibly.
Yeah, I think it was Chelsea, of the 2010, 2011. So look, for Villa to go and do that, okay, playing against bottom of the league, and Sheffield United are a struggling team, but came up against Middlesbrough previously in the FA Cup and needed a really late goal to get the job done. So you've got to just go and beat who you're up against. And I thought it was a really impressive performance, first half especially. And the fact that Villa were able to, sort of go and get another goal in the second half was pleasing too.
I quite like the way the fixtures are falling here, because the sticky patch kind of probably started with Sheffield United at home and then Manchester United on Boxing Day. So the way the Premier League fixture computer's done it, which is quite weird, having playing a team that you've only just played, really. But I quite like now that I feel like they've put that right by beating Sheffield United away, and they've got a chance at the weekend to put right that Boxing Day defeat as well, kind of extinguish any ghosts.
Yeah, I was really surprised with Sheffield United's approach, actually. They were sort of playing quite a high defensive line, which, doesn't really... I don't know. I mean, look, not a football manager myself, but it doesn't really... Yeah, I'm a golf manager. Don't worry about that. But we're talking about football here. It just felt like it was the wrong tactics, to allow Ollie Watkins the chance to run in behind, which he did so often, and Leon Bailey, a player who's in great form. It was just a bit surprising, and the fact that Villa were able to sort of wipe the floor with Sheffield United in that first half was largely down to, I think, Sheffield United's approach. It was just a really surprising tactic, but The Man United game now is something that Villa will be looking for revenge for. It was really disappointing, wasn't it? The away game. Watched Manchester United late last night here. Thought they were
So
really impressive. Thought
yeah,
they played
they've
really
turned
well.
the corner, haven't they?
Well, yes, but Martinez getting injured again now might cause them some more problems. So it's a little bit of a worrying wait for them because clearly he's a big part of that team. Having Casemiro back, he just seems to break up play a little bit more effectively than some of the other midfield players that Manchester United have. Højlund seems to be coming into a bit of form. And obviously Garnacho as well. He's somebody who's quietly going under the radar. I think he's started 19 or 20 games in a row now. For a teenager, he's making a real big impact at United. So look, it's going to be a big game. Emery obviously always likes to put himself against the best teams in the world, and Manchester United still hold him very high esteem. We'll be looking forward to the challenge.
I said on the preview with Dave Reed that I remember us going through a little bit of a similar sticky patch this time last year, and then we came out of it and went on all kinds of incredible runs. So I wasn't really too concerned because I felt like Emery had the minerals to get us out of it, and then had the minerals to kick on again. And even though it was a bit of a sticky patch, we were still picking up points in the main. We only lost 2 games in that patch, and we still managed to win one, navigate the FA Cup, and get a couple of draws as well. So I felt like although it was a sticky period, we were still picking up points, whereas in the past in my life, if Villa have had a bad run, you're losing every week. You're not picking up anything, and it's a real struggle. But do you think Unai Emery was wary that it was a bit of a sticky patch and did anything in particular to get them out of it?
Well, of course, he wants. It's simple. He wants to be winning every game, and clearly, in the first half of the season, he was doing that more often than not. There are very small tweaks and changes that he makes to each approach, and I think we can't speak too soon because it's very important and very big victory against Sheffield United, but we need to be looking at it this time next week. Are Villa still in the FA Cup? Have Villa got something out of the Manchester United game? Because I'm looking at the league table now and I'm thinking 15 games to go. Villa are in a great position. I think they probably only need 10 wins to stay in the top 5 now. And I think they can do that. I'm really, really confident that they can do that. And I don't see them getting pipped at this point now. I know it's early to say that, but I think there's more chance of Villa remaining in the title race than dropping out of the top 5 at this point in time. I think they're still firmly in there. And you can't write them off the title yet. I know it sounds crazy, and maybe we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves after one decent victory. But you look at the table, it only takes another little run and Villa are right back in there. 5 points behind Liverpool, still got to play them. Only 3 points behind Arsenal, and everyone's raving about Arsenal now. They're back in the title race because they beat Liverpool. Villa are 3 points behind them, and they've already beaten this season, and they've still got to play them again. So don't write Villa off yet. And if they can get those 10 wins, I think they'll finish in the top 5.
I love the positivity, Greg. I'm not with you on the title race. Still, if I was offered 4th now, I'd absolutely take it. I think I want to make sure we get 4th. That's what I wanted. I think it's going to be quite a close battle between us and Spurs, although I was a massive fan of Everton scoring in stoppage time at the weekend. But it feels like there's a gap between 5th and the rest now. So it does. Anything lower than 5th now would feel very, very disappointing, wouldn't it?
100%. If Villa don't finish in the top 5, it's going to go down as a really disappointing season.
Which is amazing, really, isn't it?
As mad as that sounds, we were talking at the start of this season, thinking if Villa can finish in the top 6 this year and get into the Europa League rather than the Europa Conference League, then that's progress. But the first half of this season has shown that Villa are capable of being a top 4 team and qualifying for the Champions League. So that's ultimately got to be their aim. I'm not for 1 minute saying that Villa are going to win the title. I don't think they will win the title. I still think the 3 teams above them.
Man City are going to win it. That result yesterday plays right into Man City's hands.
Yeah, it was feeling like Liverpool were looking really dominant, and it was written in the stars, wasn't it, that Klopp's farewell was going to end in a title, and everything seemed to be going well for Liverpool. They'd only lost 1 game this season, and that was the really unfortunate game at Tottenham, which clearly was highly controversial. But that result yesterday changes everything, and I just think all the teams around each other, those top 4 or 5 teams, have all beaten each other. So the title race for me is still wide open. I think it's going to be really exciting the next couple of weeks and couple of months. And yeah, I'm just gonna put it out there. I still think Villa have got a better chance of remaining in the title race than slipping out of the top 5 at this point in time. Because look, if Villa do get the 10 wins that I think they need out of the 15 games, that means that Man United, who are their closest challenger now for the top 5, would have to win 13 out of their 15 games. I just don't see them doing it.
No. Take a little break for a second to say something about our sponsors, NordVPN. You can grab your exclusive NordVPN deal by going to 1874.io/NordVPN. If you do that, you'll get a huge discount off their plan, and you'll also get 4 months to free. And look, 4 months for free even. And luckily for you, it's completely risk-free, because if you're not satisfied after 30 days, you can get your money back from NordVPN. Adam, let's play the advert. Why not, Adam? Let's mix things up again. Play the NordVPN advert. 1874 is proudly sponsored by NordVPN, so when the Villa are playing and you can't watch it, we want to help you. NordVPN is a secure and private service which works on pretty much any device, including your laptop, mobile and your smart television. So if you want to watch some live content, it allows you to appear like you're in another country. And whilst you're connected, no one else can find out what you're doing, including your internet service provider. Beyond this, the service also has threat protection baked in to protect you from intrusive website ads and malware, which is pretty handy for you. As part of NordVPN supporting 1874, they have given us an exclusive deal of up to 65% off and 4 months for free. This also includes Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. All you've got to do is go to 1874.io/NordVPN and sign up. All the details are also in the description. Also, this November, NordVPN are also promoting Movember, which is a charity based in the UK which raises money to help fight mental health, suicide, prostate cancer and testicular cancer. All are amazing causes, and NordVPN has added a donation feature to their checkout which enables new users to donate £1, £5 or £10 or whatever the customer decides to donate. And even better, NordVPN will match every donation. As always, we're very grateful to anyone that signs up. We know that money is tight, but if you think NordVPN will help you out, it will also help keep the channel running and help us too. Probably. Fair enough. And thank you to NordVPN for continuing to sponsor us. I've completely lost my trail. Bad place for me to put in an advert when we're mid-conversation about a football match, Greg, because I've completely lost where we were. We're talking about the game.
Let me put one to you. I mean, look, it's a big week coming up for obviously Villa. What's the most important game for you? Getting past Chelsea and staying in the FA Cup and hopefully going on to try and win a trophy, or getting the result against Man United?
The Chelsea game's taken on a further bit of importance to me, just because I feel like the draw's quite kind afterwards, and then suddenly you can find yourself in a quarter-final of the FA Cup. So I think that's massive. But for me, the Premier League, every game, we need 3 points to just keep ourselves there. I think Peter Drury said in the commentary yesterday that at the moment there's a 70% chance of a fifth will get you in the Champions League with the way the coefficients are working. So I just want to cement fifth as soon as possible, and then aim for maybe higher when we know that we've definitely got fifth. Then I want to definitely get fourth, and then we can start thinking about anything else that may come after that. So still the Premier League is very, very important and the most important thing to me. But in my head now, I think the FA Cup takes on more importance than the Europa Conference League. I'd rather see us win that than the Conference League.
I totally agree with you, because
I don't think that's a popular opinion,
But you gotta break it down and look a little bit deeper. If you win the FA Cup, and Manchester City and Arsenal and Liverpool are teams that take this competition really seriously as well, then it's almost, I'm trying not to sound stupid here, but it's almost as good as winning the Premier League in some respects, because you have to beat the best teams who are fielding their strongest teams also to go and win that competition. So, okay, it's obviously it's not as good as winning the Premier League because it's over a much shorter span, but you still have to beat the best teams. To win the Europa Conference League, you have to beat a load of low-ranked teams who pretty much every Premier League team are expected to beat. You look at the history of the Europa Conference League so far. In the 3 years, I think that it's 2 years that it's taken part previously. Leicester got Leicester got
West
to
Ham,
the
is it?
semi-finals, didn't they? And West Ham went and won it, and Villa are now expected to go and win it as well, or at least go very, very deep in the competition. So the FA Cup, forget about the whole prestige of it, and because times have changed. Unfortunately, it's not the same as what it was like when our fathers were growing up and watching the FA Cup, and winning the FA Cup was an unbelievable achievement at that point because it was the biggest competition. But it's lost a little bit of its charm, I think, because of just the way football has gone and modern football has gone. But look,
I think that's
stripping
coming
it.
back now. I think that it's on its way back.
I mean, it'd be great if it was, because it's a competition I used to love watching when I was much younger, and I've fallen out of love a little bit with it because teams tend to rest some of the players. But I do agree with you. I think you're right, because the real big teams take it really seriously and they want to go and win it because it's a big cup win. So with that in mind, if Villa get the better of Manchester City and Liverpool and Arsenal and the other teams in the Premier League, then it's a much bigger achievement. Yeah, and something and look, this fan base is waiting for a victory now, isn't it? A cup win. The thing that the last real sort of thing they were clinging on to was the playoffs, and it was a great day out, and that feeling in isolation of being promoted from the Championship and comparing that to perhaps winning the FA Cup, the feelings are no different. You're absolutely buzzing to have won on the day regardless, but looking back in the future, the FA Cup win will obviously be much more highly regarded.
My opinions on the Conference League keep changing because obviously I was buzzing for us to qualify. It's been a long time since we were in Europe. I found it at times, some of the games, a little bit tedious, if I'm being honest, in the group stage. But I understand that will change as it gets into the knockouts. You've mentioned like West Ham and Leicester. Where Villa are in the league, the teams that have been gunning for the Europa Conference League, or even the teams that have won it from other countries, they've not been in the position in the league that Villa are in now. I don't think Villa will be able to continue and fight on three fronts. I don't think that will be possible. And the other thing about the Conference League is, compared to the FA Cup, the amount of Villa fans that would be there and get to be at the game is like night and day. It's like thousands more, not tens of thousands more, would be at an FA Cup victory at Wembley than would be at the Conference League in Athens. So for me, the FA Cup takes on more significance because I know as well that people of my dad's generation even haven't seen Villa lift the FA Cup. It's like the only thing they haven't seen. So I think if you're asking them whether the FA Cup is more important than the Conference League, I think most Villa fans now would say the FA Cup. Look, I get that. No, you don't have to pick one in isolation. What will be as you go through the tournaments. But me personally, now if I had to choose, I also think the FA Cup puts less load on you, less load on the squad than the Conference League does. So at the moment, for me, the two priorities for Villa are the Premier League and the FA Cup, and then whatever
it's 4
happens
games,
in the
isn't it?
Conference League happens.
It's 4 more games. Villa needs to win 4 games to win the FA Cup.
Yeah, how many is it to get to the final of the Conference League at this point?
I don't know where we're at, but they've already played so many as well.
7, I think.
Yeah, 7 more, but which is really difficult. I mean, West Ham's achievement last year, they didn't lose a single game.
It took it out of them, didn't it, in the league?
But it's really, really difficult to do. Yeah, and they were fighting up there for a little bit, weren't they? But they had little blips and during the hectic period. So it's difficult. Look, it's hard to maintain results and performances in all those competitions. But bizarrely, Villa have actually been better when they've been playing 3 games a week rather than 1 a week.
It doesn't make sense. Let's go back to the Sheffield United game. What was your moment of the match? There were some lovely moments. I mean, Douglas Luiz's pass, for example, was absolutely stupendous. Yeah. What a pass! I think Villa must have kind of known Sheffield United were going to play like that, or must have watched tapes, because I don't remember seeing Sheffield United actually against West Ham. I watched that game. They were quite high. I remember thinking, I thought Wilder would come in and try and solidify them, but actually he's tried to get them playing football and got them higher at the pitch. They're not perhaps as compact as I thought they would be. I thought he'd try and get the defence right first, but he's actually gone a bit the other way and tried to get them scoring goals. But Villa must have seen something they can explore, because we played in a far more direct manner than we have done in any other game. We were playing the ball over the top. Yeah. Ollie Watkins was making lots and lots of runs. Same with Leon Bailey coming in from the right-hand side. But what was your moment of the game?
Well, I think, look, even if they didn't expect that, because look, the home game was completely different, wasn't it? Sheffield United sat back, and that actually worked well for them.
Yeah,
So it's surprising that they went and played like that. I suppose when you're bottom of the league, you've got to go and have a go, haven't you?
at home
And
especially.
yeah, because games are running out for them. They need to get wins. I think they're 10 points behind, aren't they? So they or 9 points behind. They need to start getting wins somehow. So maybe the change of approach was what they were trying to do. But players and obviously the manager would have sensed that early, even if they didn't prepare for it. And clearly they reacted to it if they hadn't prepared for it. So
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? That it could be kind of either in-game management from Emery, or the players are intelligent enough to realise how the game is unfolding and
yeah,
and adapt.
Yeah, and look, they go through so many different passages of play and plans in training every week. How they're going to get through a low block, what they're going to do against the high line, how they're going to play if they go down to 10 men, how they're going to play if the opposition goes down to 10 men, how they're going to play if they go a goal behind, etc., etc. All of that is in their body of work. So it can be as simple as, look, we're turning to plan A, plan B, plan C, etc. My moment of the match, I think, look, Dougie Luiz's pass was unbelievable, wasn't it? I like Tielemans' goal, to be fair.
I think that was mine.
Came quickly after he should have scored the other one, probably. It was a bit easier chance, wasn't it, the header? He's missed a couple in recent weeks from set pieces. Clearly a threat from set pieces. Look, silly from Sheffield United to leave him open on the edge of the box, and he only scores screamers, doesn't he, Tielemans?
That's why I liked it, because I've seen him score goals like that for Leicester so many times over the years, and thought, I loved it. I love him as a player. Like, I love his technique and the way he manoeuvres the ball. I've always thought I'd love him at Villa, but always just thought Leicester are miles ahead of Villa, because they were. We're never going to be able to sign someone like that. So to have him, and I think he's in Villa's best 11 now. Tielemans had to work hard to get there, a bit like what we were talking about with Bailey last week. Tielemans has had to work hard to become first choice. I think that was probably my moment of the game. But the biggest compliments I can pay Villa from that game is, one, to Leon Bailey, that when he cut in on his left foot, I just expected him to score from there, because he scored that goal so many times this season, and he did. Second one is that's the first time for about a month where I haven't sat there watching Villa and thought about Pau Torres. He didn't cross my mind once during that game.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure on Pau Torres, isn't there? When he comes back,
and better.
If he's classic,
unbelievable.
As soon as I remember when Libor Kozak was out for so long, and he was brilliant.
God, this shows how far we've come.
but yeah, look, there is a lot of pressure on him, because I think most Villa fans think that their brilliant form was pretty much solely down to Pau Torres now. And okay, they are going to see an upturn, I think, in the way they build up from the back when he's back, of course. But you can't put too much pressure on him, because it's a collective thing. Going back to Tielemans, I think he's benefited from Ramsey sort of not being available for a lot of the season. I think he's playing really well now. And yeah, that was probably my moment of the game.
Yeah, good management as well. Louise got a 45 minutes rest. Ramsey got on and got 45 minutes. I feel sorry for Ramsey, because obviously this is probably the second time or third time even that he's come back from an injury now to try and recover, and he just hasn't been able to get any rhythm at all. And you can visibly see when you're watching him that he just isn't at the level of that he has been previously. No. And you wouldn't expect him to be. It's really difficult for him, because he didn't have a pre-season. And you're trying to it's so hard to get the rhythm and get back into it, especially when you come into. I think it is 3 times he's kind of returned to the team now. Hopefully this can be sustained, but it's going to be difficult for him to get back to that rhythm because of the stuff I've just mentioned.
Yeah, I do feel for him a bit. It's been a real stop-start a few months for him. Been disappointing. I spoke to him after the last game of last season, the Brighton game at home, wasn't it? Brighton. I spoke to him after that game, and he was in a really good form at that point. Playing really well. A real big part of the Villa team that were on the incredible run of home victories. And the questioning that was sort of coming from me was, how are you going to you're very close to being called up for England now. How are you going to take your game to the next level to sort of get that call up and then stay in the England squad? Because he was at that stage, and it feels like the last sort of 4 or 5 months, he's just dropped back so much because of the injuries. But absolutely no doubt in his ability and his quality. As soon as he gets back fit and match fit, and in a bit of rhythm, I'm sure we'll see the best of him again. But yeah, it must be hard for him.
Yeah. Talk about Ollie Watkins. I mean, we'll be repeating ourselves undoubtedly. Sometimes we do this podcast, we talk about individual players. Obviously, we've been speaking about how good they are all season, but Ollie Watkins led the line absolutely superbly. My man of the match, which I'm sure means absolutely nothing to him, winning that award. And you don't get a trophy for being my man of the match either. But to be top now of the goal contributions table, so goals and assists through the season, the calibre of player here, and it still makes me laugh that people think that we can get a better striker than Ollie Watkins. It's ridiculous. Yeah. He's so good. He's a brilliant player, Ollie Watkins.
Yeah, we sound like a broken record, don't we? Because every time he goes through a run of games where he doesn't score, and look, he's a streaky striker. There's no denying that. But he gets enough goals every single season to make him a brilliant striker. And Villa, it would be really hard to replace him. So. Yeah, I mean, look, he scores and he assists. He leads the line really well. Lovely little dink cross for Moreno, and was just a nuisance throughout. And there are going to be times where he goes 3, 4, 5 games where he doesn't score, but then he'll score 6 in a row. That's just how he works. And then over the course of the season, he's going to get enough goals. To highlight how important he is to this Villa team. And yeah, I've seen another stat on him. I think he's the first player to register 10 goals and 10 assists in any of the top 5 leagues, the top 5 major leagues in Europe. So that's not bad, is it?
But where's this better striker coming from?
Where they're gonna turn to get somewhere better than him.
Unbelievable footballer and a nice guy as well. Ollie Watkins to boot. So yeah, really pleased for him. Obviously just surpassed 50 goals, 50 Premier League goals, I think it was for the football club as well. He's going to become Villa's record scorer, which that record's been Gabby's for a long time. But Ollie Watkins is going to take that mantle. He's just such a good player. The way he leads that line, I don't think people realise, some people, how much work he gets through as well. And even if he's not necessarily involved in the game, what he's doing to pull people around to make space for the other players. He's really intelligent. I don't think there's a massive really weakness in his game. He scores right foot, left foot. He can score with his head as well. He can drop deep and collect the ball and hold it up. He runs in behind. He works hard. Where's the weakness there? That there isn't one. For me, just an absolute brilliant footballer.
Dean Smith used to say the one weakness that he had was that he didn't believe in himself too much.
He must do now.
He didn't believe in himself enough, but over the last few years, that's boosted his confidence. I think when he lost a little bit of confidence under Gerrard because he didn't score. He scored maybe 2 or 3 goals, I think, under Gerrard. I'd have to double check, but he was in a bit of a difficult spell towards when Emery came in. But the work that Emery's done with him, he'll be flying high now. He's a regular part of the England setup as well.
It's almost helped him in some way. Dean Smith will mean an awful lot to him, and I'm not knocking Dean Smith in any way at all here. This is just an off the cuff feeling that's just come into my head whilst we've been talking. But Dean Smith was his manager at Brentford, and Dean Smith picked him up and was his manager at Villa. It's almost, I don't know how to explain this, but having another manager like Unai Emery, a different manager, different voice, believe in him so much and think he's so good. Yeah. That's been good for him, because at Brentford and Villa, it was the same guy. So almost like Dean Smith saying he's lacking belief. Maybe there's something in it. It's the same guy that believes in him. To have a world class operator like Unai Emery believe in him, and has come to Villa and could have had designs to bring in his own striker as well, but he's worked with him, decided that this guy can do what I want him to do and more. And Unai Emery's believed in him ultimately.
Yeah, and he had the whole issue of he was the penalty kick taker, and then he lost his position as the penalty kick taker. That might have knocked his confidence a little bit over this summer, but the way he's bounced back, from that and continued to score goals has showed that doesn't have to score penalties because he scores so many elsewhere anyway.
That's the other thing. He's up there with Haaland and Salah, who obviously have missed football at different periods at the moment. Watkins doesn't take penalties. That for him to be up there with them, that makes it even more impressive. Morgan Rogers came on and made his Aston Villa debut, Greg. I thought he was going to score, but he managed to balloon into the crowd. But another option for Villa. Difficult to tell in that brief cameo what he's all about. But Villa obviously eventually picked him up in January. Bertrand Traore moved on. Villa didn't quite manage to shift Callum Chambers. A few other players have come in as well. Do you make Villa stronger now than they were at the start of January? Because essentially Morgan Rogers has replaced Traore, and I'm not really convinced Traore was ever going to play any football for us.
No, I don't think he was he? And look, jury's still out on Morgan Rogers because he's played 9 minutes of football for Villa, so we're going to need much more time to know whether he's going to have an impact. Clearly the manager wants him. Mark Harrison, the academy director who had him at West Brom, played a big part in his arrival. Also, so that they believe in him. He's going to need a little bit of time to get used to Emery's style and working with new players, but I think he's quite tactically adaptable and somebody who should settle in pretty quickly. So look, it's another option for Villa. It's a fresh option. He's tall. We've spoken about previously Villa lacking a little bit of height until this season. Obviously signed some taller players in Zaniolo and Torres, and have tried to address that because they were a very short side previously. But that gives Villa another option, and he's someone with a lot of potential. I think he's going to kick on in the years ahead. So let's see. He might just be Villa's wild card for this second half of the season.
Yeah, he's kind of indirectly now going to be covered for Duran for a couple of months as well, because Duran's going to be missing. Is that a concern that Villa don't have another natural centre forward? I know Emery said about Zaniolo playing there. I'm not surprised he was injured, by the way. Missing the game the weekend. The way he was running around the pitch like Newcastle, like a lunatic. No wonder he missed the game. Honestly, I've never seen.
Yeah,
he came on and was like he was determined to do something to hurt himself.
Yeah, he's a bit of a character, and he's Zaniolo. We're kind of waiting for lift off from him, but yeah, I mean, he's clearly trying, but it just hasn't quite worked for him. Probably hasn't had enough minutes as he's wanted. I do think it's a little bit of a worry that Villa haven't got somebody else they can turn to, but I also look at it and think, well, there's Leon Bailey, there's Moussa Diaby, there's Rodgers there now, there's Ramsey who can play slightly advanced if need be.
I think Ramsey could play that role really well as the second shot.
Yeah, I do too. So
McGinn as well.
McGinn can play there if needed. He's shown that for Scotland and scored plenty of goals there. So I'm not too concerned. I think there are plenty of options. I think Villa's options are strong. I said before the January window that I thought Villa were in good shape anyway. They just need to make sure that Martinez stays fit, that Ollie Watkins stays fit, probably that John McGinn stays fit. And if they can get Torres back, then I think they'll be in good shape.
And Douglas Luiz. And Boubacar Kamara. And Konsa, Konsa's gone off injured, hasn't he? Which is, we don't know the extent of that at the moment.
Yeah, and look, it's very, very unusual to have three of your top three centre halves injured, and that is where Villa are at present. We don't know about Konsa. We'll wait and see in the days and weeks even ahead. But it's very unusual to have your top three centre halves out. So. Okay, Clement Lenglet isn't as good as Mings, Konsa or Torres. But the fact that he's come in and Villa are still picking up points and are still in the FA Cup at this point, he's pretty impressive, because there aren't, if you just strip it down a little bit, there aren't many fifth choice defenders better than Clement Lenglet, are they, in the Premier League? So
Johnny Evans.
That's where Villa are at the moment.
I think he's fifth, isn't he? Fifth centre back. Johnny Evans. He's ended up playing a lot of football, hasn't he, at Manchester United this season? Just finally on the game, Iroegbunam got some minutes as well, and even in the brief cameo he had, as much as I didn't mind Dendoncker and thought he was useful, just in possession, Iroegbunam is a better fit than Dendoncker, isn't he? I
think so. He's just got a bit more potential, hasn't he? Whether he needs another loan spell to go and play regularly remains to be seen. There were plenty of clubs in for him before he got injured in the last window. He was never going out in this window, purely because he'd just come back from injury and Villa were moving on. Dendoncker anyway, so they actually need him at the moment as a backup. So it'd be interesting to see how he kicks on, because very, very highly rated from his time at West Brom, and rated by Emery too.
Gregg sent me a very excited message this morning about doing this podcast about Villa's other January signings. Do you want to just take us through the other players that Villa have bought in January?
Yeah,
mainly because I've forgotten the goalkeeper's name.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was more to focus just on Lino Sousa, to be honest, and it was just a player. It's become a bit of a running joke, hasn't it, that Villa continue to sign players that either play for West Brom's academy or have played for West Brom's academy.
West Brom on your CV, and you've got a chance of a role somewhere. Maybe,
I mean,
maybe you'll get the call up, Greg.
I've never played for West Brom.
Okay.
Even indirectly, you look at Morgan Rogers, Louis Barra. There are lots of academy players that have moved over, but Lino Sousa was a player that was always the top target from West Brom. He was a player that Villa had their eyes on 2 or 3 years ago, and we're desperate to sign him. That I understand they actually at some stage they thought they might be able to get him, but there were some complications, and he ended up going to Arsenal. But it was inevitable, if ever he became available, that Villa would go back in for him. So it'd be really interesting to see how he kicks on. He's obviously gone out on loan to Plymouth. If he can have a good second half of the season out there, then he might come back in the summer and be challenging for a spot. But yeah, just somebody who Villa have had their eye on for a very, very long time. And it was quite funny, really, that they got it done. Because it did come out of nowhere. I think it was Fabrizio Romano who first sort of alerted us.
Just as my show bloody finished.
Really? Yeah.
Literally a minute after the show finished.
Yeah. So came a little bit out of the blue, but just for a bit of background, he's somebody that they've been after for 2 or 3 years.
I kind of like that it was already pre-arranged. They knew they were going to send him to Plymouth. Like they got that mapped out and got that planned out, because Villa seemed to know that Plymouth is kind of a safe space to send players, a good place for players to go. So these are just the things that Villa never used to do. They didn't have a loans department. This is just
they didn't
clever.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, there wasn't a loans department. There was no head of emerging talent. Villa have all that now. I've spoken previously about the setup at Villa. There's a modern infrastructure there now. They're set up to kick on. Emery's added the elite management and coaching twist that they needed, but without everything in the background, it would have been much harder for him. I look at it as an example. Could Emery have gone to Chelsea and done as well as he has done at Villa with so much chaos in the background? No. I don't think he could have. Villa are very, very well set up. So that's credit to Nassif Sawiris and Wes Edens, who have continued to invest in good people, and then obviously previously Christian Perslow and Johan Langer, who did a lot of the recruiting and brought really good people into the club too.
Yeah, great to see. I love how well run Villa are on the football side. I absolutely love how Villa operates. It's brilliant to see us operating in that manner. Joe Gauchi's come in also, Greg, from Adelaide United. Bit of a difficult one with him, because obviously he's been away on international duty, so he won't have joined. Actually, he might have joined up with them now, in fact, but we don't really know loads about him. I'm not going to sit here and lie. Also, we don't know whether he's coming in to be number 2 or number 3, but he's got a bit of experience behind him, Australian international, and if he's anywhere near as good as the last Australian goalkeeper Villa had, then we'll be okay.
Yeah, let's hope so. We should get Bozzy on the podcast actually and see if he can give us any update.
We did him when we were with the Athletic, when we did this on the Athletic, didn't we?
Yeah. We should,
nice guy. Always wishes me a happy birthday on Facebook. Good guy, like, wasn't he? Oh yeah, he lives it.
No, he's a top guy, but obviously he's a pundit over in Australia, so we'd have watched much more of him. But yeah, look, we knew Villa needed to address the goalkeeping department. It always felt like they needed a younger sort of upcoming goalkeeper to be the new number 2 really for Emi Martinez. Obviously a couple of youngsters who Villa have got out on loan, Philip Marshall and Vil Sinisalo. So it'd be interesting to see how those two develop. But Robin Olsen, has he really done it for Villa? Probably hasn't. So it might be time for him to maybe step aside and someone younger to come in as the number 2 to Martinez.
Interesting, because we kind of lost the goalkeeper to Brentford. It felt like he was probably the number 1 goalkeeping target, and he decided to go to Brentford and be part of the first team squad immediately with them. To be honest, I've not been fully convinced by Flecken, so maybe he spotted an opportunity that he might be able to make himself number 1 at Brentford easier than trying to dislodge Emi Martinez, which is probably fair enough. But it's good to say, we've said previously that clubs have a list of targets, so Villa will have moved down that list, and they'll have identified it. Like I can't, like I say, I can't sit here and say I know much about him, but Villa will have identified a particular style of goalkeeper, I think, and he would have been on that list.
It's a profile, isn't it? A certain age, the potential to increase in value. Somebody who's prepared to come in and be behind a very, confident and established number one, and know that they're only going to play a few games each season.
Yeah, be interesting. I'm interested to see what happens with him, how soon he comes into the first team fold. I guess either in the next couple of home games. Villa always have 3 goalkeepers warming up. Villa always have 2 goalkeepers on the bench as well at the moment. So it'd be interesting to see
and
where
Marshall's
he
gone
fits.
out on loan, hasn't he, to MK Dons?
Yeah,
so
good move for him as well. MK Dons relatively high level, isn't it? Did we sign anyone else on deadline? I'm completely lost track of where we are.
Just a youngster from West Brom.
That's what we do.
Quinn, a 16-year-old.
Rinse and repeat. We've said this before somewhere, I'm sure. So yeah, a decent transfer window for Villa in the end. But when you see generally, I mean, I remember saying that I thought it was going to be a quiet transfer window, and I didn't think Villa would. I said I didn't think Villa would sign anyone, and obviously they have, and people laughed at me. And okay, we signed one player and a few for the future, but generally I was right with what I was saying about the vibe of January. Let me tell you, some of those days at Sky coming in, what's happening today?
Nothing.
Nothing at all. There wasn't much going on at times, but we made the best of it. Just fascinating, really, isn't it? How much PSR is affecting teams and their ability to do things. Was it less than 100 million spent?
Yeah, I mean, clubs are just scared now. They've seen the Everton example. Nottingham Forest obviously facing concerns as well.
Didn't stop them getting people in though.
No, yeah.
Honestly.
But I think more than ever, you heard managers coming out and speaking and saying, "We're not going to do this. We're not going to do that. We can't afford to do this." I think Ten Hag came out and said that. Arteta as well. So yeah, it was across the board really. And look, the best teams plan for their season in the summer, and they only really sign in January if they need to react. And under the NSWE era, Villa have always been flexible, and they've always brought somebody in January. So, be interesting to see how Rodgers kicks on.
Yeah, really well. Right, that does us, Greg. Thank you ever so much for joining me. I know what's the time? What's the time where you are?
It's 6:30 now. It's nearly bedtime.
any chance of a round of golf before bed? I'm sure it's still light out.
Oh no, it's dark now.
Oh, is it dark now,
pal?
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, thank you for joining me. Anyway, always a pleasure to talk to you. Thanks to new 40-year-old Adam Bates as well for producing the show, as always. And thank you to you, the listener and viewer, for tuning in. Do all the usual stuff that helps us: commenting, liking, subscribing with your post notifications on wherever you're getting the podcast. It's always appreciated. Thank you for all the support. And we always get nice words on Twitter about this podcast as well, which isn't always the way on social media. So especially I find that over the last few weeks talking about other teams on Sky G's, you get some abuse from people. And luckily it doesn't really bother me. But God, if you talk about someone else's team, they get on you. Let me tell you, it's a horrible world.
So precious, isn't it? Football. It's so precious.
Mate, honestly, I've had some right stuff said to me over the last few weeks. It's absolutely amazing. But yeah, thanks for all the support you do give us, because we really, really appreciate it. So I do see it amidst the social media abuse from other fans that's there, mainly about the accent. In all honesty, that seems to be the main critique, and I can't do anything about my accent, so it's not really. What can I do?
But I'll defend you to the hilt with that one, mate, because I'm pretty similar.
Yeah, what can I do? It's how I sound. It's where I'm from. It's not going anywhere. So yeah, I've not done badly considering the accent. We'll be back next week, of course, with this show on a Monday, like we always are. I might see if I can get someone together to do an opposition show before the Chelsea replay. I don't want to call it an opposition show because it's a preview show. I've got dogs kicking off downstairs. They've done well to get through the whole podcast. So let's go. But yeah, there'll be some more shows through the week. And as always, up the Villa.